Hey everyone, what is up and welcome back to the Lifestyle Lifters Show. I'm your host, your online transformation coach, Adrian McDonald, here to help you look, feel, and perform better without restrictive dieting. And today, next to me, I have, or opposite me, should I say, I have Irtaza Farooq. Irtaza is an online fitness coach currently based in the UK, but he coaches clients worldwide. Irtaza, welcome to the Lifestyle Lifters Show.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. So, Irtaz and I would have seen each other quite a bit when I was in Dubai back in April and May. He trains hard. He was getting after it in Banú's gym, and we're also in the same mastermind at the moment,
Yeah.
where we're focusing on just improving our client service, improving our business, and we both have that growth mindset, Irtaza. But before we get into that, we want to speak about muscle building, mindset, all the good stuff. Share something about yourself, Irtaza, that most people do not know.
100%. So probably like something that not many people know about myself. Do you want me to relate to fitness, to anything in general?
Anything at all, man. Anything at
Hmm.
all. First thing that comes to mind.
Probably I've spent more time. Actually, here's a fun fact. Uh, I'm someone that really values solo time, being solitude. So fun fact about myself is like every year, sounds a bit like saddest, but I spend my birthday by myself on purpose. It's one of the best days of the year. It's like spend the time sitting down, solitude, take everything in, and just like I really value solo time, and travel gives me that as well. So I'm more like someone that likes having a bit of a curious mind and kind of exploring and thinking as well. So
Oh
that's
man,
that's
that's gold in there. That is good. I'm curious now because I'm there's people say like that they're introverted or they're extroverted, and obviously you know, we all know the difference between both, but in the middle is an ambivert, someone who likes spending time with their own, but also likes socializing and engaging. I would probably classify myself more so as an ambivert, that I love that bit of time to myself, man. But I also do like obviously interacting and the social side of things. I'm just curious in your end, because you mentioned that about the birthday. What do you learn about yourself when you have so much time to yourself in solitude?
honestly, it's more so what loops do I need to close? Because when you've got certain things in your mind and you're like, I always think you can't overthink a thinking problem. You can't solve an overthinking problem by overthinking. So having time by yourself, and also like that's the part of the year where I really want to see this as January 1st, and I set the goals and the vision where what I want to do next year, and I kind of stretch that as well. So like once a year, really sit down. It doesn't tend to be the whole day, but predominantly most of the day, like slow down the day, really solitude, like spend a lot of time by yourself, a lot of time thinking, get creative, set the goals. So typically that's like my New Year's resolution point. And also I kind of look at what do I want to achieve? Who do I want to become? What's a loop I need to close? And what's like a big goal that if I achieve that next year would
Deadly, man.
almost like 10
Deadly. I
years into
love
it.
that. And just for reference, because I heard you say it on the call yesterday, your birthday is the 25th is of this month, 25th of November.
23rd before
Oh, 23rd.
Black Friday. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so
Yeah.
tomorrow week. Interesting. So it's the time of year where you're just reflecting on nearly the full year gone by and what kind of goals you'd like to accomplish. Honestly, Irtaz, I was just even thinking about this myself today. Like maybe it's just my nature and the type of personality I am. I almost find it hard sometimes to sit still. It's like thinking time is valuable, it's important for us all. But I almost feel like, geez, I should be working on something here, given the fact that I've no phone in my hand, no laptop, no book, no nothing. I'm just thinking. Do you ever get the same?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I'm always like trying to like be more productive and do more things in the midst of it. So like for me to switch off, I always find like if someone said don't think, just relax, I'm like I create a problem by myself. So like if there's nothing going wrong, I'd sometimes create a problem. So I'm like, I'd rather touch wood, but I'd rather be because like you're very similar to this as well. And I kind of like actually see that in you, where it's like you're more progress driven. So like you're more motivated by the progress and like in terms of where you're going as opposed to the outcome. So technically you may have it now where you just want movement and you want some momentum in either direction. And you like fixing things, you like breaking things down, you like progressing things and growing things. So typically when things are standstill, I'm like, there's something going wrong. Let's create a problem so I can fix it. So 100% with
Deadly.
that. And
Man, I love that perspective of actually looking at it like that. I never really thought of it like that. And speaking of progress, it's a nice way to segue into one of the main topics we want to speak about today here, Taz. That is muscle building. Obviously, something that I'm working on, something that you're working on. You're training hard in the gym. What are, first of all, just some common mistakes that people make that you typically see who want to pack on a bit of muscle, gain a bit of size?
so probably like in terms of I've kind of got like a background of dieting my entire life, so I can say this from a place of like I know what is like the benefits of muscle growth is like probably going to be the biggest thing. The way I like to see muscle growth and describe it to our members as well, it's like think about it as like you put in pennies in the bank every time you're building muscle. And when you want to cash out, that's technically dieting. So the more time you spend investing into the bank, the bigger the cash prize. So by the end of
Deadly.
the growth stage, you're like, actually, I've got a bigger outcome. Whereby if you continue to diet and diet and diet, you're just cashing out pennies and there's nothing there. So I think if that's the first perspective you want to go into it. So I think the more time you can spend building, the better results we'll have. So I'd say for you, you almost want to map out a year and spend three quarters of that building muscle and maybe a fraction of that dieting to really get the best outcomes. Second one, I think most people focus on diet and scale weight targets, but really what it comes back to is that your training is going to be the biggest thing that moves the needle forward. And when I say training, the biggest thing with that is not prioritizing everything at the same time. So you want to
Brilliant.
prioritize parts. So for me, I know these next 26 weeks is going to be classic arms and legs. So it's like everything else we're happy to maintain. These are going to be the focus points. We're going to push that as much. Everything else, we're going to do enough to just not go back, right? But these are going to be priorities. And then by the end of it, because you've got two focus, like two big focuses, you can really push the needle further even more. Everything else you can then catch up later. And you may shift the focus and having that priority in terms of what you're prioritizing is going to be the main thing. So you don't want to go into like a place where you build for like small amounts of time because when you cash out, there's nothing there. Two, you want to think about it as like having priorities and like having like things mapped out in terms of these are the focus points and everything else you can still maintain, but you don't want to go generic training splits and be like, I'm just going to do push pull leg, upper, lower, upper, but you really want to block out what growth you want to see. A third thing, I think, is more of a case of like having like being okay getting uncomfortable with body weight because
Yeah.
you might get me on this one is like sometimes you're like, oh, I've got hamster cheeks now. Like I don't want to go on Instagram stories. I don't want to show myself. Like everything is better when you're leaner in terms of confidence, but kind of being in that to actually be in a place where I'm gonna get uncomfortable now. But if you think of it in 2 years' time, you're gonna be in the best shape of your life. But I kind of go into a phase.
100%.
So I'm not sure if you relate to the third one as well. Could you say phase one
Oh,
as well? How's that for
bro,
you?
like that's me in a nutshell, 100%. But one of my friends actually, he's a coach as well. He said it's called bodybuilding, and as the name suggests, that does require you to go through a building phase. And honestly, for me, it's just like, look, as you said, when you actually zoom out and just pinch out and stop focusing on the now and the present, and you zoom out by a year, by 2 years, by 3 years, you're building your body by gaining more muscle. Meaning, when you are leaner, when you do a cut down, you're just going to look more jacked. You're going to look better. You're going to look leaner. So, man, I love the point you made there too about the bank and the pennies in the bank because again, that's something that maybe you and I as coaches know, but for maybe the average individual who just wants to train and look better, they mightn't be aware of. But like when you think about it, if you're constantly dieting, as Irtaza said, and you're dieting that will just say 1,800 calories and you're a guy, like does that mean then that you have to drop down to 16 or even 1,500 if you want to keep going? Whereas if you spent the time gaining in a calorie surplus, you built up your metabolism, built up your maintenance calories to like 3,000. It's so much easier for that individual to diet at 2,500 versus 1,500.
100%. As I always say as well, your metabolism goes where your food goes. So like if you get spending a lot of time going on lower calories, your body's going to start to adapt slowly and make that your new maintenance. Similarly, as your food goes up, like technically the same will happen over time. But it's quite interesting with that. Have you had previous experience? I'd love to hear because I know you are really down into physique and seeing the growth within you. Did you struggle to gain muscle first, like in terms of like mentally dive into that?
With me, it's I'm definitely find it easier to lose fat than to gain muscle. I do know
Yeah.
that for a fact. Like I pleasantly surprised myself this year. I didn't think I'd 15 kilos to lose because like my walking weight would naturally have been year round 83 kilos. So when I did a photo shoot after like a 4 week cut, when I saw like 76, 77, I'm like, geez, I haven't been this weight in years. And
Yeah.
then from going to that to bodybuilding, 67 kilos, like that was the exact same weight that I was when before I started lifting at all, man. So what I would say for myself, I don't have a hard time gaining fat, but I definitely do find it more difficult to gain muscle. But with that being said,
100%.
here, Taza, like this is the first time, this is the first winter since I ran a marathon 5 years ago, where I'm really, really, really now like making a big, big emphasis on it. Like I'm giving myself permission to get the chubby cheeks, to get the love handles, to get some of the belly fat, because again, just what we spoke about, I know long term it's going to benefit me.
100%. Do you feel like environment has something to do with that? Because I do feel like because you moved to Dubai,
100%.
when I moved to Dubai, I was like, there's no more dieting for me. I'm
So
sorry.
I
Like,
will I will say this, man. So with the lockdown, when COVID came in 2020, like back in 2019, I probably would have done maybe a gaining phase, but 2018 I did a big one. I did 4K calories and I put on a nice bit of size. I got up to 90 kilos. 2019, Christmas 2019, I probably just did. I was happy enough with how it was. I wasn't gaining, I wasn't cutting. And then obviously COVID was 2020. The big change that happened with COVID was Irtaza. I went from training in a commercial gym to training in a home gym. And what I will say is, 20 winter 2020, 2021, 2022. When you have like, look, you can absolutely do with a barbell, with dumbbells, with kettlebells, with the chin up bar, etc. But the level, you know yourself, the level of equipment and how much more I've access to over here in Dubai, it just means it's a no-brainer for me not to be doing a gain phase, because there's a machine for there's more lap pull down machines for any, like there's like 10 lap pull down machines in one freaking space alone. So definitely environment does play a huge role in it.
like it. You definitely see that with Dubai. Everyone just wants to get big, and it's growth central. I'll tell you that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So and that's a fair point as well, Irtaza. Like exercise selection, equipment availability. That is, all of these things do play factors in the amount and the rate of muscle gain that you obviously you get over a period of time. I'm currently doing a course with John Dew at J3 University, and he's like just rinsing and repeating. Like as you said there, Irtaza, while food is obviously important and pushing food, you can technically gain muscle while being in a calorie maintenance. It's obviously just going to take much, much longer. But if you really want to get that muscle growth, as you said, it comes down to hard sets. Like you can do 5 by 5, you can do 3 by 10. But if you're not training at or close to failure, you have to get that stimulus to get the response to drive growth. So going off that then, Irtaza, how important do you feel that like choosing the right exercises is for gaining muscle?
So kind of like add on to that thread you mentioned there in terms of training from the first, the way you like I've been taught, and it's kind of like been proven research in terms of like what's the most important when it comes to muscle gain is at the top is like progressive overload, like getting stronger over time, doing more reps, doing more weight. Second is that protein per meal, protein during the day, to the top of amino acids to promote growth. Third is being in a calorie surplus, but calorie surplus helps with the first. So technically it's helpful, but for beginners, they can get stronger without being in a huge surplus, for example. So definitely would answer that. The question you asked was you mentioned like in terms of exercise selection, how important is it? You said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like how important would you say just maybe choosing the right exercise would be for actually gaining muscle?
So I think it's probably I've actually believe it's more important now because I've learned more into it, and I love the fact you've done John Jewett because I've consumed all his free content, and I'm looking at taking the plunge myself, so I might just bite the bullet soon as. In terms of the exercise selection, so I think the biggest thing is that when you really want to focus on that physique development, you need to look at things from like a place of like what needs to grow it. Is it the peak of the bicep? Is it the forearm? Is it the peak of
Yeah.
the hamstring? Is it the lengthening? So you can really train specifically for your goal. So I think typically now you really want to look at it from a place of like understanding, and this is where a really good coach comes in, like yourself, where it's like you need to understand like what parts of your body you need to develop more of, and also then
Yeah.
choose the exercise geared towards that, and also know do you want to train it in the shorten range more, the lengthen range more, what's most important. So for example, for example, right now I'm training more of like bicep peak because I might have realized I'm not being prioritized my arm for the last 7 years. So I'm not really focused on that. Brachialis is okay. So I know
Yeah.
that there's less hammer kills, there's more peak.
Hammer curls. Yeah.
So then similar to that, I think you want to know your goal because then you can reverse that back in terms of where you need to put more focus. And if you just do lat pull down, seated row, barbell row, like most people do, you'll get generic results, but being very specific allows you to know you're going to get there quicker and you're guaranteed to get the exact outcome you're after. So I think training matters because you'll always look like how you train, and if you train a certain way, you'll look a certain way. Otherwise, you'll
100, man. That's such a great point. You always look how you train. If you train a certain way, you look a certain way. No, that's a And it's something that just it's funny you said that, like prioritizing body parts, because a mistake I made in the past was trying to do too much at once. Like being a former athlete and field athlete, I tie a lot of my identity to being able to run and to being able to do, we'll say, a 10K run, no matter what time of year it was. But then that did to some degree impede my muscle growth because, as a result of doing these 10K or 5K runs, etc., 2 or 3 times a week, what mightn't have been able to train legs as hard. So that's something that I've definitely had a hard time prioritizing. Like, look, having different seasons for everything. Just like with diet and with gaining muscle, with maintenance, sometimes you want to be dieting, sometimes you want to be gaining. And if you, as you said, pick your body parts that, okay, just for this next phase, I want to bring up my arms, maybe I want to bring up my lats, my delts, pick 1 or 2 areas, prioritize those. And it's not that you're not trying to gain in your chest, it just, that's not your high priority area. Man, I really love that point.
Yeah, it's like right now you can think of it as like, right, am I doing enough to not go back with these body parts? But these are going to push the boat forward even further. So like right now I'm doing 2 exercises of chest per week. That's enough to maintain, and the rest is like delts, back, arms, legs, etc. So that's like kind
Deadly.
of how you want to see it. So it's what can you do to not go back, and then what you need to do to move forward as quick as possible with these ones.
100%, 100%. An area that I'm focused on now, rear delts.
Oh,
Um, getting
yes.
a pair of wings, man, just getting that, but it's so rewarding too. Like it's so rewarding just seeing your delts, seeing your shoulders grow. Like honestly, I've never enjoyed my training as much in probably all my life, and that's not even me trying to sound sensational here, but like it is very rewarding. I would say for anyone to go through a dedicated gaining phase. You kind of mentioned already, Irtaza, that you want to be doing it for at least 3 months, but like for some people who are beginners, they could easily get away with honestly one of my clients. I'm saying we're not going near a cut for at least 12 months.
Yeah, the more time the better, generally speaking. And I think I'd say 6 months are the lowest. I think eight months is
Yeah.
ideal. 8 months is like a very good, respectable time to see that we're going to look different. And the reason I say that is because if you think of it, like dieting is quite quick, right? If you think of it, you can lose 1% of your body weight per week. Over
100%.
12 weeks, you can get done with muscle growth. You're looking at like 1% per month if you want to gain muscle, not fat. Can you gain faster and gain more body fat? 100%. But if you want to gain muscle, then you're like technically half the rate of fat loss, right? So if you lose a pound a week, you'll gain half a pound a week. And that's going to be respectable. So you may go and gain
Yes.
200 grams. Like to say to someone like 200 grams per week, like, what's the point? It's like, actually, if you compound that, it makes sense. But if 200 grams a week is like demotivating. So the more time you had, the better it becomes. And 200 grams per week over, let's say, 40 weeks, you've got a good amount on you. So
Oh,
it's,
exactly. Yeah, and zoning out. And as you said, it all comes back though, Irtaza, with just having that game plan and identifying the goal for the set period of time. I'm curious then, and I know there's one no best answer here, but what are some of your favorite workout splits for gaining muscle? We'll just
okay.
say now, I'm thinking of the average listener. From my listeners, anyways, I would say most people are able to train 4 times a week. Five could be a push, but we'll just say for someone who can train 4 days a week, what are some best practices in terms of workout splits to follow?
Yeah, so I'll tag something we stick to within our program quite a lot, and something that I really believe has made the biggest difference for me and a lot of people obviously who helped is like train the muscles you can't see twice as much as the ones you can. So everything behind you, train that a lot more than the ones in front. So back, delts, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
hamstrings, glutes, double down those more. In terms of like that training splits, let's say we go 4 times a week. For a male, a push, pull, upper, lower works really well. And adding some like hinge movements with your pull. So technically training legs 1.5 times a week and upper body 3 times
Yes.
like that. And if you want to prioritize more like essentially row splits, I'd say doing something like shoulders and delts, shoulders and chest and shoulders in one day, do like a more of a back and hamstrings on one day, upper lower could be really cool. So it's like push pull upper lower. But I like to, well, typically the same one, but I like to kind of do it as like that's my favorite one personally, the one I've seen like you can train more upper. You can even do it as like lower, upper, lower, upper if you want to prioritize more legs. But typically, there's not really a training split that's going to be ideal. I think of training splits as like, how can you organize training volume? So you know you need to do this much for your shoulders per week, this much for your chest per week, this much for your legs, for your back. What's the best way to organize that into a way that you actually enjoy? So I don't really like doing too many body parts in one session. But if we even break it down, if I just had all my exercises written down in the sets, we can chunk it into like infinity number of sets, infinity number of training splits. But it's about how would you like to organize it based on what you need to do that week and what you enjoy the most. So personally, I like to do a push pull upper lower. I prefer that.
Yeah,
It's more beach body based, so
I
definitely.
like that. Yeah, I absolutely love that split as well. Push, pull, upper, lower. Or sometimes I like upper, lower, but then prioritizing different body parts or different movements in each session. So let's just say if you started upper one with the chest exercise and then followed by a back, you could do upper two with the back exercise followed by a chest or vice versa. There's so many ways to skin the cat, and that's the great thing about this game, Irtaza. I'll forever be a student because there's no one best practice. There's no one exercise you must or you must not do. Like there's no rule that says you have to do a barbell back squat to grow your legs, just like you don't have to do a barbell bench press to grow your chest.
100%.
It's again, it's coming down to what works best for you, what works best for your body, and just training at an intensity that's high enough to give you that stimulus. We obviously spoke about like that's obviously a lot in the training side. In terms of calories, then some people won't be too happy to hear this, but there's a big misconception that in order to gain muscle, you gotta like get all this mass gainer and be in a huge calorie surplus of 1,000 calories and drink a gallon of milk a day. When in reality, the research shows that like a 200 to 300 calorie surplus is more than adequate.
Yeah.
Have you any experience personally or professionally with dirty bulk and irtaza?
Oh, 100%. So like I think one time I was like, let's just see how quick we can gain, and that's the easiest way to your next diet. It's the quickest way to diet again. So firstly, I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's like 4 weeks build, and you're like, right, I need to really cut now. It's only been 4 weeks. Like, yeah, I bought 5 kilos on. I think personally, like this kind of comes from like a backstory. I've always, um, when I started training golf, it was more from a place of insecurities, and when I got lean for the first time, I lost the insecurities, and I was like, I feel confident. So I lost my training motivation, and I was like, the only thing that was keeping me training was insecurity. So what I subconsciously did, and I actually did this 3 to 4 times over like 4 years, was every time I finish a diet, I would dirty bulk, so I feel more insecure, so I want to be more motivated to train again. So for me, it was more subconsciously I would do that. It's like
interesting, man.
it's quite crazy because I was, oh, the only reason I'm here is because I want to feel better. But when I feel good, I'm like, the reason's gone. Now it's my training is like a vice of productivity. But that's kind of my experience. I would gain 1, 2 kilos a week and be like, right, I feel uncomfortable now. I'm gonna go to the gym 5 days a week. And that was my personal experience. From guys, I see they always want to rush to a certain kilogram number. They're like, oh, I finished dieting, I'm gonna get to 80 kg in 4 weeks. Where are you right now? Oh, 70. I'm like, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You don't need to. It's
Because yeah, yeah, it's interesting because there was a study on this too, and it's like 300 versus 1,300 or something calorie surplus, and it's like the rate of muscle gain in the 13 over the 300 calorie surplus was minimally more. Like you're talking maybe over a 8 or 12 week block, it was something like I think they gained on average 200 grams extra muscle, but the amount of fat gain in the 300 versus 1,300 calorie surplus, man, it was like 4x the amount. So it's like to gain just such a small extra amount of muscle, you're then gaining so much
yeah,
excess fat there. So for anyone, whatever your maintenance calories are, let's say 2,500, you're maintaining your weight. Add about 2 to 300 on top of that. Track your scale weight, track your photos every single week, and you don't need to do much more. If you're plateauing for like 2 weeks and nothing's happening, bump up your calories. If you're going up too maybe scale them back. You might be consuming more. But as you said there, Taza,
yeah.
dirty bulking is the fastest way to go from a bulk to a diet in no time.
It's one thing you touched on right there in terms of like going slower with the gaining phase. I think there's two things I would love to add on to that because I think it's gonna be valuable. It's because one is kind of the point I mentioned where it's like if you build quick, you're gonna diet quicker. You're just gonna find a
Yeah,
way to jump to diet, and that's gonna prohibit the results you could have seen because you'll get uncomfortable and you won't be as sensitive towards nutrients as you would when you're leaner. Second thing is also
100%.
like most people like going super high calories from the get go. And I think of it now, if you reverse the script, if you say, imagine you diet on low calories from the start, you're gonna have to go far lower. So like if you can actually kind of keep your calories lower at the start of the building phase, you may just be a little bit into a surplus and then incrementally increase that. Then one, you're not going to be eating like 6,000 calories towards the end of it, which is going to be quite handy. But also you don't need to make these big jumps every single like right away because it's like someone that's saying, oh, I'm gonna go straight to 1,800 calories, whereby they could be on 24. They're like, right, you're gonna have to go 16, then 14, then 12, then 1,000. So like they technically make it harder for the future themselves. So if you really look at that in the reverse in terms of growing, if you make it easy for your future self and start off steady, then pick up the pace later in terms of calories, you buy yourself more margin in terms of how much more food you can eat. But also, if you do have a training, you can actually train more as if you're not training 5, 6 days a week. You can train 3 times a week,
100%.
then do more of the time if you need to. So
Man,
make
that's
it
such a great
reachable.
point. That
Yeah.
is such a great point. Yeah, slowly and sustainably. And I think a lot of people are sometimes in a rush just because they want to eat more food. But and again, it is context dependent, Irtaza. Like if you're someone who's super lean, you can probably afford to be a bit more aggressive at the start and maybe bump up by 400 or 500. Whereas if you're finishing a dieting phase, and you let's just say you're a guy, you finish at 1800, you don't need to go from 18 to 28. You might go from 18 to 21 initially and then bump them up by like 100 a week until you're happier in your body and your physique. So there's no one size fits all, everyone, but these are just some best practices. Just to kind of wrap things up, I think this has been really valuable in terms of muscle gaining, but obviously mindset is a big part of all of this, Irtaz. And just to segue slightly, eh, there are going to be setbacks along the way. Whether you're gaining muscle or losing fat, like life is never like just you can be 10 out of 10 and everything is perfect. We all encounter setbacks, challenges. So, if what are some, I guess, what's some advice that you would give to anyone who had these great goals in mind, and it can be fat loss as well, or great intentions, but maybe they're dealing with a hard time at work, in a relationship, they're dealing with a lot of stress, and they're not fully able to commit as much as they'd like.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things I can dive into that. So someone that's got a lot of plates they're juggling at the same time and they finally can't commit as much. One of the things I'd say is that one, you want to look at a good strategy to think of is that what's the minimum, what's the maximum, you use that framework every single week. So in a really good week, let's push the rim, let's go to the maximum. On a
Good.
bad week, let's go towards the minimum. So if you think of that, and the way I like to think of it is that when it's easy, go hard, when it's hard, go easy. Because you can have seasons of life where you've got work obviously on you. The seasons never last. I think it's like a temporary thing as well. It's like you're gonna be super busy sometimes. Right, cool, let's strip down to the minimum. You've got a lot more time. It's between Christmas and New Year's, you're off work, you're just relaxing, push hard that week, have some sick progress. So then minimum and maximum is really good. I think from a place of like someone that's got a lot of plates of juggling, I think the perspective I really like to push with our members, and I also like believe it's the biggest thing I've done over the year is like training keeps me balanced. So someone that chases balance, they're technically chasing the wrong thing. You're chasing harmony. So I feel like if you've got the four areas of like work, personal life, professional life, your training, your physique, balance means you give 25% to all these four areas, but
Yes.
typically it never really happens. Harmony means they all move together. So when you're on top of your training, you're better for your work, you're more productive, you're more organized, you're less stressed, better for your relationship, you're better for yourself. So typically now people chase balance, but what they want is harmony. So you may have to go like, right, I'm going to strip down and adapt the training, but this is going to allow me to be better in all the areas I'm going to be more busy in. So like nowadays, for example, I just do like 45-minute training sessions because that's the time I would do, but I still know that after that I'm more productive and more organized, I feel better. And it keeps me centered. So I'm not just like going with the wind. So is that training allows you to stay centered in life and also it gives you the harmony such that everything feeds into each other, but so they all move forward rather than one at a time. So it's not just right, we're gonna do like all work and no play, or we're gonna be one dimensional in that
Deadly.
aspect. But it's you can't I feel like for most people they want to switch the perspective to minimums and maximums and also chase harmony and not balance and being adaptable to what's going to be more harmonious in that sense.
Oh man, that is gold in there. Like as you said, having bare ass minimums that no matter what happens in a given week, no matter how bad it is, this is the bare minimum. It could be 10K steps, three strength, and I don't know, 80/20 nutrition, 8 hours sleep, whatever, just to find that. But you also brought up a great point, which was just mentioned at the mastermind the weekend. And I heard Lewis Hose as well on his podcast, The School of Greatness. He interviewed one of his guests, And it was actually Dr. Andy Galpin. I know it was Dr. Andy Galpin who said it to Lewis Hose. He said, imagine you have 10 marbles. Imagine you've 10 marbles and you have to dish them out evenly, or you have to dish them out and allocate them across these four buckets. So your health, which we will just say your fitness, wealth or your business, your job, your love. So that'll be like relationships, and then rest and recovery. Okay. So health, wealth, your relationships, rest and recovery. And you can't do any half marbles, they're only full marbles. As you said there, typically, if someone is balanced, it's going to be something like a 3-3-2-2. But if you really want to push any areas of those lives, whether it's business, whether it's fitness, there is going to be a period of micro imbalance to get that macro long term balance.
Love that. There's do you know John Maxwell? I love that story, by the way. I
Yeah,
think I've
yeah,
heard
yeah.
it.
John Maxwell, the legendary coach.
Fantastic. So he, something that I remember, he had an article on it. I'll just send it to you after the podcast. Is he said you want to think of life as a game of juggling balls, and you got two different types of balls. You've got glass balls, you've got rubber balls, right? And the goal is to know which one's a glass, which one's a rubber. So you may have family life, your mind, mental health, your physical health, your spouse, career, X, Y, and Z. If you try to juggle all the balls at the same time, some of them they'll probably drop and you'll start to able to play the game again. But the goal is to know which one's a glass and a rubber. So if you drop a rubber ball, it'll bounce back.
Deadly.
You can just be there. If you drop a glass ball, it's shatter, it'll take time fixing it. So the goal is to know which is
Unreal.
the glass and the rubber. And like if you can drop the rubber balls, not the glass balls, then you can actually juggle life. Because then eventually you can pick the glass balls or the rubber balls back up, but the glass balls are gonna stay broken. So you don't want to drop those balls. You want to choose which ones are worth dropping and which ones are worth
Oh,
still keeping the
that
two
is
that can be
golden.
damaged. Like
I've never
that,
heard that story before.
I heard that and I was like, that's so spot on. So for me, like the glass ball I've dropped, well, the rubber ball I've dropped is social life. I've been super monk mode. I'm like, oh, we can pick it back up. Nothing's gonna happen. It's not gonna be broken. But you need to know what's because everyone's glass ball and rubber ball is gonna be different. But you just need to know which one can you drop and you'll pick it back up. And could be a social life. You go see the mates again this weekend and you're like, oh, nothing changed. Like we just picked it back up. Or it could be somewhere where it's travel. Like we've been traveling for a little bit, drop that, it's gonna be there when you need it. Or certain aspects where it's like, let's just drop it for now, pick it back up, and nothing's gonna change. And you're okay with that, right? So and that's your analogy I really love. And I really love to add that on top of it because I think it's quite
Yeah.
important to balance looks like.
And given the fact, so this podcast will be out this day week and the 22nd of November, it might be a time for everyone that, you know what, for the next 4 weeks up until Christmas, that if you drop the rubber ball that is your social life, your socializing with friends, eating out at restaurants, etc., that could be a rubber ball for you, and your glass ball might be up until Christmas time that you're going to prioritize your fitness. And then you could reverse those roles that, you know what, over the 2 weeks of Christmas, I'm going to scale back the gym side, the nutrition side, the calorie counting, and going to prioritize family life, social life. It's a great way, again, just like muscle building, just like fat loss, just like your training, just like stubborn body parts, periodizing different times of the years for different things and just prioritizing that. Irtaza, man, this has been amazing. We could speak all
So
day on this. And you also have your own podcast too. So before I ask you just the final couple of questions, where can people learn more a bit about you, Irtaza, and what you offer?
So in terms of where you can find me on social media platforms, so we're pretty much everywhere. It's ir.taza. It's ir.taza. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Predominantly Instagram's the best one. The podcast we have, which will definitely get you on there, we'll get you in person in Dubai. In the sandpit will be the method coaching, and we're pretty much pumping out two podcasts every Sunday. So
Deadly,
yeah.
deadly. Irtaz, I'll post a link to your IG in the show notes. So everyone, make sure after listening to this, you drop him a follow. Check out his content. It's very, very good, Irtaza. Just to wrap it up, because this is the Lifestyle Lifter show, we're going to do a very, very rapid five Q&A, rapid fire, as short as possible, Irtaza, as short as they need to be. So the first question is, when you hear the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Um, Gerald Adams, I look up to him in a lot of aspects.
Who's that?
Gerald Adams, he's more of a philanthropist.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And why so?
So he's someone I looked into quite a lot from an early age. He was the first introduction to personal development. Something he said was like he really dives into like the passion, being passionately curious, and also he's someone that's got a lot of energy that I'm inspired to have, and he's got he really chases having it all at the same time, whether it's family, personal, professional. He focuses on every aspect to being optimized. But
Deadly.
that's the first introduction. Like success isn't singular, it's the overall. So he kind of taught me that.
Man, you must link me. You must link me. Send me a DM with some of that
I'm
stuff. That
gonna
sounds really good. I've never
let us
heard
know
of him before. What's one new habit, Irtaz, you've implemented in the last year?
what's one habit.
One new habit you've implemented the last year.
This year has been all about connecting with new people. I've done that a lot over the years, but this one I was like, let's just kind of get to know as many people that I can be around, because then you can break beliefs and become someone new because of environmental exposure. So it's not a habit I've doubled down even further. Was that
Deadly.
primarily?
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it, man. Awesome. If you could go back to when you started, what's one piece of advice you give to your younger self?
Be I'd say be quick to implement new ideas, but that'll be there's a better one, I'd say. I'll give you two actually. That's gonna be the first one, be quick to implement. As soon as you get an idea, do it. Second one is be patient with the results, but be impatient with your actions. That'd be the first, that'd be the
I
biggest one.
love it. Be patient with your results. Irtaza, you were dropping freaking knowledge bombs here. I love it, man. Be
Just
patient with your results. Be impatient with your actions. I've never heard that before. Unreal. Second last one.
that's wrong.
I'm so Irtaza, what do you feel is a gym exercise, an underrated gym exercise that most people don't do enough of?
Oh, give an arms one. So cuff lateral raise or a lateral raise machine if you optimize that.
Deadly.
One of the ones.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I'm with you on ladder raises. Amen on that. Last question here, Taz. I'm big into morning routines. What's the first 60 to 90 minutes of your typical day look like?
So I typically wake up, get outside, get some water in, or go to the gym. Who knows? I like having like a place where it's more physical orientated in the morning. So it's either walking 6,000 steps or training session. And I have a routine where every single morning by this term, I need to get that done. So that's 9 a.m. training or steps needs to be done. So that's
Deadly.
my things. And
Yeah.
that's after going through DMs and messages, of course.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Deadly. Deadly. Working on yourself so you can help people out and you in a better mindset first thing in the morning. I love that. A common trait amongst a lot of people who come on the podcast here, Taza. Just to wrap it up, because this is the Lifestyle Lifter show, what's your definition of living a successful lifestyle?
Oh, I think it kind of echoes what I've said in this podcast is pretty much having it all, being it all, doing it all. So you've not just got the body in isolation where there's nothing that's going for you. You've just not got the career going well or the social life going well. So I think the biggest answer would be a case where you can have it all, be it all, do it all. So you can actually be in the great shape of your life, physically, mentally. You're pushing your business, you're pushing your career, you're pushing your social life, and you've got harmony. I don't like using the word balance. You've got harmony in all aspects. Because I've been the guy where it's I've pushed my physique and I've sacrificed everything else. I had no energy. Nobody wants to speak to me. I had no friends. I've also been the guy that's been the opposite way, being super social. I've been focused career and I lost my body in the process. So it's how can you have it all, be it all, do it all? That's the biggest thing with that.
Amen. What better way to end the show? Irtaza, thanks so much again for coming on, man. This has been amazing. Really appreciate it. Epic stuff.
It's a pleasure to have you on here and looking forward to getting you on mine. And that'll be far sooner than we think. So I really look forward to it.
Oh, it'd be my absolute pleasure, man. I'd absolutely love it. Irtaza Farooq, thanks so much again. Everyone, make sure you drop him a follow. And if you did get value from the show, please drop me a follow as well on Instagram at Mac Lifestyle Fitness, MC Lifestyle Fitness. And if you're not already doing so, please do subscribe to the show. It does help massively with reach. Irtaza, thanks again for coming on. Great episode. We'll chat to you soon.
Likewise, pleasure.